This next person I'm really excited to share because I think there's nobody in this room who doesn't want to scale their business up, right? Every single one of you guys want to grow your business. You wouldn't be here otherwise. This guy scaled from 46 million 5 years ago to 208 million last year. #1 team in the state of New Jersey for EXP. All 3 years he's been with the company, so I'm really excited. This is the first time I've gotten to hear Brett speak, so I'm stoked to have him up here. Brett Sikora out in New Jersey. Let's go.
What's up, guys? What's up? I actually lost the #1 spot last year. It was my 4th year, but it was people in my downline, so it doesn't sting that bad. No, guys, I'm Brett Sikora. I've been doing real estate for quite some time. Kyle and Dan asked me to speak, and I said, sure, let's absolutely rock and roll. So a little bit about myself and really where I wanted to go with this whole thing is some of the mistakes and some of the things that I learned throughout scaling the organization. And what's important to me, hang on, oh, here we go. What's important to me is to kind of touch on, like, not the 2016, like the good years and that. If you really pay attention to 2007 to 2016, I think that that's where a lot of agents that are either individuals or are part of our team live. And that hurt, like that. Those were shitty years as a realtor. So I figured, let's go back to 2007 and what that was. I was 21 years old. I went and got my real estate license because I wanted to make money, just like anybody, that wants to do that. And I did it for about a year. I worked with Weichert Realtors, and I had a mentor at the time that was saying, you got to do this, you got to do that. I'm the head of PTA. I'm all of this, these fantastic things. My husband's a soccer coach, and that's how I was successful. I'm like, great. Well, I'm 21 years old. I can't, work in that whole market. I can't make that work. So I was just kind of spinning my wheels. I went to, I don't know if anybody remembers Ed Escobar with Sweat Hogs. I went to a Sweat Hogs event too. I'm dating myself. It's been, I don't think they're around anymore. But I went to a Sweat Hogs event and they were like, you got a cold call, but then they didn't tell you what to do once you actually got at the meeting. They didn't tell you how to present to the seller. They didn't even tell you how to look on the MLS to see if something was already active that you were calling, which was pretty interesting on the training side of things. So a year later, I was completely broke. I had no money. I had a 500 credit score. And I went into car sales. I actually failed as a realtor the first time that I started trying to be a realtor. Sold cars, it was, July of 2008 then we're in. And I sold cars and I was pretty good. I did internet car sales. I think I was 22 at the time. So I knew how to use the internet. I knew how to use email. I knew how to convert leads. And I was very likable. So it was kind of an easy flow, but I didn't like selling cars per se. It was kind of a scummy business and the hours really sucked. The thing that's interesting about selling cars is your goal as a salesperson is to get as much money out of your client's pocket and into your pocket. You're trying to get them on the highest payment possible, and that's how you get paid. And what's cool about real estate is it's the opposite. You're like fighting against the opposing party to try to keep as much money in your client's pocket, and you're watching them build wealth as they're taking your advice. So I'm much more aligned with that theory behind that. And fortunately for me, if anybody remembers September of 2008, shit really started to hit the fan. I was good at selling cars. I think I was selling 20, 30 cars a month, and the bottom just started to fall out. We went from selling 600 cars a month at our dealership down to, I think, 35 in September. And then October was when Lehman Brothers failed, the Dow dropped, everything was just absolutely awful. So kind of like what Naeem was saying, at that point in time, I had the shit credit still. I had a little bit of money that I had, made from the car selling side of things. And I had just broken up with my girlfriend. I went and I have a tattoo down my ribs right here. I'm not going to show you guys, but it says believe on it. That was rock bottom for me. And I wanted to put it in a spot where it meant something to me and not everybody was going to see it. So I didn't, I had $300 left. I went and got a tattoo and I was on Craigslist. Yeah, it's you should see stupid shit that I do with my money today now that, yeah, it's you never leave that. That's why I married a smart Jewish wife. She keeps that all under control for me. Checks and balances throughout my life. But yeah, so I went on Craigslist. I spent my last $350 on a tattoo, and I went on Craigslist and I saw make $100,000 your first year selling real estate in Hoboken, New Jersey. That was a cool town. If nobody's ever been to Hoboken, New Jersey, I think we have the Guinness Book of World Records for 54 liquor licenses in 1 square mile. So it's fun. It's a good spot to be in your 20s. Similar to this gas lamp district and stuff like that, but there's 14 blocks of it that just keep going. So I went to Hoboken. I started on Friday. It was October 31st, no money. Halloween, I remember walking in, my boss had a wig on. He was this wacky guy that loved Halloween. And that Sunday, I did my first rental. So I made like $700. I got paid that following Thursday, and I'm like, great, I'm back in business. So I started rocking and rolling, and I was grooving rentals. I was good at it. I was working with people that were 22 years old, 25 years old, in a very young town, and things were going well. I was back on track. June of 2009, I heard about a gentleman called Mike Ferry. So I went into the Mike Ferry coaching. I dove right in. I went to the Superstar Retreat July of 2009 in Las Vegas, and then from there, switched companies and went to Liberty Realty, and I started prospecting for sale by owners. I had a business partner. I don't know if any of you guys know David DeVoe. He was kind of along with that ride for me, good buddy of mine and still is. But he and I took 18 for sale by owners in the summer of 2009 in 12 weeks. So we were cranking FSBOs, things were good. But again, what that coaching didn't tell me, and I'm only 22 years old at the time, or maybe I was 23 at that point, is what happens when deals die. Like deal doctoring, and the emotions were high in summer of 2009. Buyers still didn't know what was going on. The market was still dropping, and I had no idea how to keep a deal together. So I'm taking listings. I think I heard somebody say yesterday they took like 9 expired listings and 8 of them, or 9 listings and 8 of them expired after that. That was us in '09. I didn't have a freaking clue, and I abandoned the rental income. So I found myself, really scraping by and coming through the winter of 2009, 2010. And when I got lunch with Dan Beer yesterday, we were talking about, he said, have you ever been to San Diego? And I'm like, I've only ever been to San Diego for real estate seminars. I've actually only ever been to California for real estate seminars because your state only does real estate seminars here. I just keep coming to California and I go back. So January of 2010, it was the elite Mike Ferry one-on-one coaching retreat. And I had booked that trip in advance when things were humming over the summer and didn't know that I wasn't going to have, absolutely no income again. So we flew out here. We did a cruise from LA. We went to Mexico with my girlfriend at the time, came back up, drove down the the Pacific Coast Highway, whatever that is, to San Diego with a rental car. I went to the Mike Ferry one-on-one retreat or whatever, which is actually across the street at the Hyatt. So that was the first time I was ever in San Diego, and I was absolutely broke. I was so broke on that again that when we were talking about going on the cruise, I was getting Foster's cans. I still had to get my booze in me, but I was getting the Foster's cans because it was double the size of beer, for $5 versus getting the smaller Coors Lights. So anyway, when I came back from that trip, and the reason I'm going into this is so many people, they lack the training in between the seminars. They lack the training in between the coaching. They don't know what to do when they're actually doing that whole thing. And I ended up going back into the rental game. I left that company. I think it was right when I got back. And in my opinion, I stunted my growth. I was comfortable. I was making $80,000 to $120,000 a year, and I was staying completely in my comfort zone. It's what I knew how to do, and pretty much within the theme of this whole seminar, you keep seeing like discomfort is what creates the growth. That's where you're going to actually go from that. So I kept doing the rentals, and then 2013, Dave DeVoe had kept going. He says, hey, I want you to come be my buyer's agent. I got a good thing going here, and this is at Liberty Realty in Hoboken. And I was like, all right, fine. I'll definitely take a look at it. Came back in as his buyer's agent, started to prospect, and started to get good things going. And that's when I met who is now my wife. So I've heard it come up a few times that people don't want to focus too much on the why aspect of things. But what I realized is that not only didn't I didn't have a roadmap to follow, I didn't have systems to follow prior to 2013, but I also didn't really give a shit. I don't care to make more than $80,000 to $120,000 a year. I actually don't. It doesn't drive me beyond belief. But what I do care about is giving my wife the best goddamn life she could ever think of. And I have 2 kids under 2 now as well. And that is like what really drives me. So I just bring that up too, because if anybody's struggling and doesn't have a wife and kids, go get married and have kids, because it really gets you going. So 2015, I'm coming through the real estate game. Things are going. I think I did $7 million or something like that. And I was with KW at the time, and I said, listen, guys, I want to break off. I want to start my own team. They're like, none of the production was in your own name. We can't let you start a team. You don't qualify for it. So I was like, but I really want to do it. I think I'm really good at this. So they made an exception. They let me go into it. 2016, January 2016, we started the team. I started selling. Eric Goldfarb was my first hire. And I started scaling the agents with only a VA until 2018. So I just had a VA transaction coordinator. We were paying her like, I don't know, $30 an hour to work a couple hours a week. And the rest of the team was really bootstrapped on coaching. It was bootstrapped on value. It was bootstrapped on me doing what I needed to do day in and day out, prospecting, talking to clients, building that audience. And then the wake of that was just that overflow that everybody else was able to thrive around. As I was coming into the next years, I realized that I started, I needed systems. I needed to scale better. I needed to, do this and do that. And that's when I met Kyle and Dan, and I started plugging into like what they were talking about. I made some key hires that came along during that whole thing. So in 2019, 85 million, 123. 2021 was when my son was born. That's when I stepped out of production. So I drew that line in the sand, whether the company was ready or not, that when my son came, I was no longer going to sell real estate. And I have not sold any homes since then. I do my best to get off of every client email. I try to, the agents know if they're working a deal around me that I want to be agent facing. I do not want to be consumer facing. And it's allowed me to free up a lot of time and really geek out on the process of what that selling looks like. 2021, 192 million. And then Q3, Q4, everybody felt it in 2022 from what I'm hearing in this, except John Cheplak. I should probably start coaching with him. He's got some beasts of teams that are defying crazy odds through that whole thing. But 2022, we did 208 million, and we were third place in the state of New Jersey, behind two other teams that are there. So, and number 30 in all of EXP. So it's been a lot of fun. A lot of good things have happened with it. But what I realized in 2015, when I started working with Matthew Ferry, who was my mindset coach at the time, and when I was deciding to break off and do my own team, that all of these years, people had always told me to do certain things that didn't really empower me, like that didn't actually make me want to get up out of bed. So if I tell somebody that loves open houses that, hey, you got a cold call all day long and I'm going to lock you in this little box and FSBO's expired, everything like that, by like week 4, they're going to burn out. They can push it for quite some time, but then it's going to kind of go from there. So I brought up my KPA from when I was at KW, which has me as a showing assistant as the #1 job on there. And we ran this 3 different times because my OP couldn't believe it at the time. Transaction coordinator. I'm a badass transaction coordinator if anybody needs one. Assistant market center administrator. I don't even know what that is. A call coordinator. And all the way at the bottom, it's like single agent, team leader, all of that stuff. So, with that, just understand that this whole business requires you to be a chameleon. I make money doing things, I don't like speaking on stage. Like I make money doing things that create discomfort because that's where the money is. If it were up to me when COVID first hit, everybody's like, oh man, you must be going nuts, you're locked in your house. I'm like, no, I would love to live off the grid in a cabin in Alaska with just my family and never talk to any of you guys again, but that doesn't make money. So, But yeah, so with that, I just wanted to whip up a little bit about like, what are your superpowers? I mean, this is one thing that we coach on, we train on with our team, with the individual agents that come through. Like, what makes you tick? When you swiped your credit card to get your real estate license, why did you get that? What drives you? What do you actually like about being a realtor? What is the differentiator that you're using too on that side of things? I was talking to, I think Jeremiah, he was over there earlier. I was talking to them, their family down in Charleston, and I was like, guys, I know if I were to take listings in Charleston, which is not my market, I know what I would use as my differentiator to go in against people, on that side of things and actually beat them business-wise. When I was a small single agent, I knew how to beat an agent of my size. Now that I'm a big agent, I know what my differentiator is to go beat a small agent. So lean in on what that is and really figure it out. And then what's your avatar? This is one thing that I really struggled with for a long time. And actually, like my own avatar of myself, Mark Stein just said, he goes, Brett, I didn't even know you had hair. Anybody who watches me, I never have my hair done. I always wear a hat. I'm always in a t-shirt. I'm always, doing that. So I look for the clients that are similar to me in that side of things. I look for the realtors that are similar to me on that side of things. So, what do you look for in a client? What are your, buyers looking like? What are your sellers looking like? I had a full note card written out of everything that I wanted. All of my buyers will have 20% down. All of my sellers will list at the price that I'm willing to list at. And then we simplified it, a little bit behind that, where really it's just a client I want to have a beer with. And people will be like, well, what does that mean? When somebody invites you to go to a Yankee game and you're like, I don't want to go do that. I don't want to go sit with this person for 4 hours. That's a person I don't want to have a beer with. If the client's somebody that I could just go shoot the shit with them for 6 hours, that's who I look for as a client. So that's how we simplified my avatar for what I'm looking for. And then that too is what the agent became. I look for the agent that I can just hang out with. And then we've created this whole squad that everybody can kind of hang out together. What do you look for in a leader? If you're on a team, what are you looking for within your leader? If you are a leader, what do you look for in yourself and kind of, build out with that? And then do you have your own team? Do you want your own team? What will they look like? And most importantly, what do you want to become? I mean, what are the goals? I thought that, what's his name? James Clear. I said that right? Yeah. James Clear. When he was talking about, hey, I have a goal to sell 50 million books. It took me 3 seconds to come up with that. But then the habit is the actual, or the structure is what's actually going to get the goal behind that. So really digging deep on that. And then showtime. So the big thing for us is we kind of rank like ourselves. If you're looking at a realtor and you're asking them, what do you need to do day in and day out with what empowers you, again, keeping that in mind, with what you actually want to do, like lower the bar, let's get consistent versus having sprints and then stopping and sprints and stopping. What do you want to do to play at a level 10 for the next 90 days? Where do you rank yourself today? It's usually a 4, it's usually a 6. People throw out 7s or 8s. I'm like, you're full of shit. You're not actually ranking yourself with full-blown awareness around where you really land, but let them write their own business plan. Let them tell you what they're committed to, what they want to do day in and day out. And then you as a leader, all you have to do is hold them accountable to that, which is super easy. And like what we've seen, as far as a trend too, I forget who it was, but they were showing the slides of the people, John Glutch, the people who actually go through his free training. That's crazy. Completion is such a massive thing that works really well for a lot of the leaders in this room. They finish what they say that they're going to finish. They actually get it done. And then identify, so after that, set your perfect schedule for the next 90 days, because we want to do it in 90-day sprints, and then identify your top 3 lead sources and develop a detailed playbook for each. So again, if I'm going to use open houses as an example, well, what can I do to really have a badass open house plan? What if every open house was a Saturday, from 1 to 2, and I told the sellers that I was going to door knock the 50 closest doors with this hanger or this leave behind between 10 and 11 o'clock for a neighbor's only 12 to 1, mimosas brunch? Like, what if you did that on every single open house? What if you did 8 open houses a month and that was your process? I think that you would get a much better result than just going to sit there, showing up 10 minutes late, being hungover, and just hoping nobody shows up. So with the open houses, have that detailed plan. If you're prospecting, if you're going after sellers, whatever it may be, just actually create a playbook of what it's going to look like so that you're going to move the needle forward, but play all out, play at a level 10 with that lead source. 20 conversations daily. I don't care how you have them. If you're Lauren Taylor, who's a badass on social media, which I highly recommend her coaching, I'm in it because I'm not good at social media. That puts you in conversations with people. So if you're going to market to have the conversations, if you're going to call to have the conversations, if you're going to door knock, if you're going to sit open houses, whatever it may be, have those 20 plus conversations daily with those playbooks, and then audit progress daily. Make adjustments as needed. Set a 15-minute timer for 72 hours. Every 15 minutes, document what you did the 15 minutes before. I guarantee you're going to see so much BS time, so much wasted time, where again, if you're going with that 80-20 rule that James Clear spoke about, shave off that bottom 80%, focus on the 20, that's where the money is. And then plan your next 90 days once that's complete. So that is my 2 cents to kind of just continuously, move this whole thing forward. And if you guys have any questions, I threw my contact info up here as well. That's my personal Calendly if you want to schedule a call. One thing that we started doing when the market was shifting, what was it, Q3, Q4 of last year, is we realized, within our own organization, we had to get back to the basics. I know you guys hear that all the time, but we had to really be badasses. We had to get the agents to start working on a schedule again, and we had to hold them accountable daily. So with that, we started, if anybody's East Coast, we have Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays coaching. You guys are welcome to come kind of experience that, see what it's like, 8:15 a.m., and just see a little bit of our process and what we're doing to make sure that we're moving agents forward, simplifying it for them in a way that they can understand it so they don't get lost like I did 2007 to 2013. So I'm winding down with time, guys. One thing before I wrap it up, and regardless of how big agents get or how small they are, be nice. I saw a text that went out yesterday where somebody was giving somebody shit within a showing request saying, "Didn't you read the MLS? It's a 2-car garage," or blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, no matter how big I ever got, guys, be nice. You never know who's going to change your life on the other end of that conversation. And when I think of 2007 to 2013, I was a pretty fragile person in the world of real estate. I didn't have a lot of money. And there were a lot of people that were a lot bigger than me that helped me get to where I want to go. So be that person for them, and I appreciate you guys.